Hi, this is the performance appraisal for Nurse X. This is her yearly appraisal. We will start the performance evaluation by going through everything and addressing the areas that need improvement. Starting off is customer focus. Nurse X meets expectations and relates to work and the job purpose and the mission of the hospital. Teamwork. She meets behavioral expectations by effectively and builds relationships within the unit and among individuals. In communication, Nurse X excelled and exceeds behavioral needs. She provides an extensive shift report and communicates with the patient and the family in the next shift. Nurse X also communicates appropriate Einspahr reporting to the physician when a change in status occurs with the patient. Conflict resolution, Nurse X meets the expectations. Integrity adheres to high standards in personal professional conduct. This meets behavioral expectations. Adapting to change, she responds positively. Respects for individuals, fosters mutual respect, promotes community building and diverse. This was met and meets behavioral expectations for the organization. Safety contributes to safe and secure environments for patients, visitors, faculty, and staff by following established procedures and protocol appropriate to the job function. This was a behavioral expectation that was not met. Nurse X disregards safety and safety when compressing the garbage can after addressing change. This is an infectious disease issue and could potentially cause harm to patients, families, and other staff nurses. Quality adopts practices to improve work processes, enhances customer satisfaction, and ensures excellence in daily work. Nurse X is approaching behavioral expectations. There are some areas of improvement. Nurse X disregards the patient's request for pain medication by not bringing the medication in an appropriate timing and wanting to give report to the next oncoming shift to go home. Efficiency accomplishes work in ways that maximize productivity and available resources. This was met by Nurse X and meets all behavioral expectations, and Nurse X meets behavioral expectations for attendance. Next, we will look at job-specific expectations and clinical skills and knowledge. Nurse X meets expectations by performing assessments and identifies appropriate nursing diagnoses for the patient and standard of care. She exceeds behavioral expectations by recognizing data and identifies obvious nursing diagnoses. Nurse X provides excellent explanation on medications in correlation with the patient and the diagnosis of the stroke and the plan of care that the patient would need up on the floor. Identifies expected outcomes and nursing interventions to meet identified diagnoses and maintain standards of care. Was met and meets behavioral expectations. Evaluates patients' needs on basic standards. Was met. Utilizes standard unit technology and utilizes computer functions and basics properly. Those are approaching behavioral expectations. Nurse X does not adhere to Nurse X does not utilize the computer safely by leaving the computer visible and logged into the EMR system while assisting another patient to the bathroom. This is a HIPAA violation and breaks patient confidentiality. Nurse X meets behavioral expectations by identifying basic patient and family learning needs, initiates teaching using teaching protocols, patient care, and clinical pathways. That was met by behavioral needs, meets behavioral expectations, Utilizes patient education resources on the unit. This is approaching behavioral expectations. Nurse X provides excellent verbal communication and verbal education to the patient and the family member, but could also reach out and utilizes some of the written and pamphlet resources for education so the patient can have something to constantly read and absorb how they're doing. Identifies location of and utilizes hospital policies and unit procedures. This meets behavioral expectations. Adheres to hospital policies related to medication safety, including ordering conversions, correctly administration considerations, double checks, and other established policies and procedures. This behavioral expectation was not met. Nurse X does not adhere to the hospital policies regarding administration patient being constantly logged into the EMR is a patient risk, and does not follow patient or policies for patient information and computer security. Admission assessment flow sheets, MARs, and other applicable documents are completed in a timely manner. This was met. Nurse X meets behavioral expectations by making sure the home med rec was completed and reviewed by the physician in a timely manner. Next, we'll look at therapeutic relationships. Nurse X recognizes how the nurse and patient and family relationship impacts patient care. This meets behavioral expectations, establishes open communication with the patient and the family and other nurses. This meets expectations. Introduces herself as a registered nurse, describes role and consistently wears her identification. Nurse X met that expectation, and behavioral need meets behavioral expectations. Recognizes need for patient and family to participate in care. Nurse X exceeds expectations. She actively includes the family member in the care of her father and explains terminology to the patient and the family. Seeks help appropriate to assess readiness for participation in care, meets behavioral expectations. Actively listens to the patient, family, and concerns in a respectful manner. This is approaching behavioral expectations. You acknowledged the patient's request for pain medication, but failed to follow through with the request. This is showing the patient you didn't comprehend, or you're not paying attention, or you're not caring that he is in pain. So we need to make sure that we're giving the pain medication that we are going to give in 20 minutes. And make sure that we follow through with that so the patient satisfaction and patient pain management is under control. Shows kindness and caring with patients and family. This meets the expectation. Recognizes, respects, supports family rights, and maintains confidentiality. This is not meeting behavioral expectations. You fail to protect the patient information by remaining signed into the computer and the EMR while assisting and following through with other tasks. You're aware of the patient rights and responsibilities. This meets expectations. Is aware of the values and diversity of patients and families, meets behavioral expectations, and begins to incorporate diversity considering the patient's care. This meets behavioral expectations. The next area we'll examine is professional relationships. Recognizes role of each member in healthcare team. This meets behavioral expectations. Recognizes the impact of one's behavior on others, meets behavioral expectations. Aware of the importance of team collaboration and guidance, begin to initiate collaborative communication. This is exceeding behavioral expectations. You communicate with the oncoming shift extensively about the patient's condition and understand the importance of the report. You pass on certain tests that need to be completed and the patient's status for eating and how they get up, and you provide a very well thought out Einspahr report to the next oncoming shift. Takes responsibility for developing beginning team relationships, meets behavioral expectations. Seeks assistance with resolving conflict, meets expectations. Asks for help and accepts it when needed. This is approaching behavioral expectations. Nurse X, you failed to communicate and delegate the need for the pain medication that the patient requested. This could have been passed on to the next shift, so the patient still got the medication within the time frame. Acknowledges when conflict exists, meets behavioral expectations, aware of the values and diversity in all members of the healthcare team, meets behavioral expectation, recognizes own biases, and begins to demonstrate empathy as a member of the healthcare team, and functions as a part of the nursing team, also meets behavioral expectations, recognizes the value of nurse-to-nurse delegation. This also is approaching behavioral expectations by delegating the need for the pain medication for the patient would have been appropriate to hand off to the other nurse, the oncoming nurse. Next, we'll look at behavioral development or professional development. Engages in self-assessment related to orientation, ongoing learning needs, and seeks out resources to assist in meeting needs. Completes mandatory competencies required in orientation and annually, and with guidance provides respectful feedback to preceptors, peers, and managers related to orientation. All of these areas meets behavioral expectations. Next, we'll look at advancing practices through innovation and research. Reads clinical articles, participates in the unit-based continuous quality improvement projects, and has knowledge of and supports established nursing improvement projects. All these areas are met and meet behavioral expectations. Next, we'll look at the summary of job specifics. You meet many of the job specific requirements as mentioned above, but excels at bedside communication, correlating nursing practices with nursing diagnoses, reporting to physicians on change of status, patient status, and incorporating family and patients in their care. Areas that are needed for improvement have been explained to you, which include medication administration, safety protocols, patient confidentiality. These areas need immediate improvement and will be monitored for improvement. To help us monitor the areas that we have discussed for improvement, there will be online modules for you to complete. These will include medication administration, patient safety, and HIPAA. Your goals will be to Your growth area will be for medication administration. The outcome will be you will remain compliant with the policies on medication administration and administer PRN medications in a timely manner after request. To do this, you will complete online modules and follow appropriate documentation and follow-up care for administration, and we will reevaluate this area within 30 days from this evaluation. We also need to work on HIPAA regulations and patient confidentiality. You follow, NurseX will follow patient confidentiality and computer safety to protect patient information. Again, online modules will be used to reinforce the policies and procedures. This again will be evaluated within 30 days of this evaluation. Another growth area is safety standards and infectious disease exposure. NurseX will demonstrate proper care for biohazardous material and not violate any safety policies or procedures. Online modules will again be used on proper personal protection and safety policies and procedures. Proper demonstration of disposal of biohazardous waste will also be obtained, and this will be completed within 30 days from this evaluation. Overall, performance rating for NurseX was meets behavioral expectations, even though there are some areas that do need improvement. Overall, she is meeting the behavioral expectations of the organization. We will reevaluate everything within 30 days from this evaluation to make sure she is being compliant with the areas that need improvement. Thank you.